And these are not the same as the migratory wildebeest that a lot of you may or may not be following up in East Africa with the Great Migration. Those wildebeest are slightly smaller and have a white beard rather than a dark beard, as evidenced on these particular wildebeest. These wildebeest also don't move, whereas those wildebeest in the Great Migration walk 1,000 miles over a 12-month period. Right now, they're in the northernmost location, right up on the Tanzania-Kenya border, and they're making their way. They will be making their way south as soon as the rains start. There you can see Madikwe is looking rather stark. There's not much from a green flush going on, and that is because we are, even though it's the first day of spring, our rains haven't started yet, and we can wait. It's going to be a hot month as we go through September. In this month, you're going to notice that the temperatures increase dramatically, as do the sunrise times decrease. So inversely proportional, as the temperature rises, the sun comes up earlier and earlier and sets later and later. And for me, hell month is October. It builds up through September to some unbearable levels. We're looking at 50 degrees centigrade in most of these places, with hot, dry, dusty winds blowing. But they all herald the coming of the rains, and these wildebeest will be grateful for that. Now, being ruminants, their digestive system is used to fairly high protein, good quality grass. Let's just put it that way. So, very good quality climax species of grasses. They are good at utilizing every bit of nutrients that they can get from those grasses. But at this time of the year, they're forced to feed on slightly lower quality grasses, and it stays in their tummies and bloats them up. So you can see that they look pretty round, and that is because of two things, in actual fact. If these are females, they're going to be pregnant. They calve November, December, so they're going to have a pretty big fetus inside themselves at the moment, but also the gas produced by the types of grass that they're eating. Sorry, not the gas produced. The bloatedness comes from the volume of food that they need to ingest to keep themselves going from a metabolic point of view. And because it's so low quality, they are not getting the nutrients that they need and are eating more and more and more as a result. Their body's saying to them, eat, 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 even though their tummies are full. And it's just a sign of the times. It's just Mother Nature being her usual rather brutal self and forcing only the strongest through into the next season. Ooh, Fiona, you've asked a great question. What else can we expect to see at this waterhole? Fiona, to be honest with you, anything is possible. This time of the year, what happens is accessible food gets further and further away from water, and so animals start to walk further and further between water and feeding grounds, and so are active outside of their normal activity periods. And at some point, the food will be too far away from an energy point of view to make any sense. So animals just sort of park next to the water, really, and wait for the rains. And at that point, we can expect to see prides of lion, hyena, leopard, wild dog, jackal, cheetah, anything come out to these waterholes during the day. And so from now until the rains start, which will be the real serious rains, we're going to see a rainstorm or two within the next 6 weeks or so. But the real rains will only start in about 6 weeks to 8 weeks, and we can expect some decent rain then. Um, but yeah, we can expect an increase in animal activity around these waterholes, and anything is possible, from black rhino through to lion, cheetah, wild dog, hyena, leopard, jackal, caracal, serval, you name it. What you're looking at there is an impala, an often overlooked antelope, but nonetheless with some actually quite interesting characteristics. Watch that impala walk off, and you'll notice that where it places its hooves, oh, we'll go back and have a look at it now. Have a look where, oh, now it's running, obviously. I'll carry on and finish my story the next time we see another decent impala. Those ones are too far away for me to make my point anyway. But they're common. I mean, in the Kruger Park, there's over 200,000 impala. They're by far the most common of the larger mammals, and form and a really important part of most animals' food and diets. Everything from eagles to snakes, um, from crocodiles through to lion, and everything in between. Love to snack on impala. The females are also pregnant, and they will also be dropping their babies sometime between sort of mid-September. The first ones will come out, but we'll also in the next 6 to 8 weeks we can expect to see the first baby impala. Most probably you'll see them on the drives with the other guides in the morning and the afternoons. It's a bit of a competition as to who get to pick the date for the impala, and I'm sure those guides have already thrown that out to you all and asked you to jot down when you feel the first baby impala are going to arrive on the scene. Right, so when do I think they're going to arrive? Goodness me, I'm usually very wrong with that sort of thing, to be honest with you. My guesswork is almost always off. Tristan seems to have the best luck of everybody, followed, I think, by Taylor, maybe. James also seems to have his finger on the pulse. Jamie definitely used to when she was still on the show, but let me give it a bash here. Let me say that the first impala will be seen on the 20th or 21st of September, and then there'll be a bit of a gap, and then there'll be a flood of them into October, and then definitely November. That's how far out I am. Let's go and have a look at Old Donyo, which is usually quite a busy waterhole. Yep, it doesn't disappoint. This is Africam Old Donyo Cam in the Old Donyo concession in Kenya. So we've quickly flown 5,000 kilometers north into Kenya. We're not very far away from the equator here. Probably no more than a couple of dozen kilometers. And just look at this retreated to a giraffe bull drinking straight off the cup. Wow. So we've got two giraffes. There's a bull, he's drinking. It's a female giraffe, a cow giraffe on the left hand side of him. And then we've got two eland. Those are the large antelope that you're seeing. Let's just be quiet while these giraffe drinking. That rather large bird of prey just scared them as he came flying in there. It looks like an African hawk eagle. Let's see, a very fierce eagle. It's tough to see with the resolution that I have, but for you birders out there, please have a guess at what you think that is. I think it's an African hawk eagle, one of my favorite eagles of all time. Winged in and just gave the giraffe a bit of a fright. There we go. So it's a pair of African hawk eagle. They're almost always together. And if you listen carefully, you'll notice the alarm calls of birds all over the place. So I'm going to keep quiet. Listen carefully. You should be hearing alarm calls. Actually, that is such an epic sighting of a pair of them Like really. This Africam Old Donyo cam never ever fails to amaze me. The last couple of weeks, the footage that we've gotten from here has just been stunning, frankly. There's a pair of African hawk eagle and some eland, and on the eland is an oxpecker. I can't see a yellow beak on the oxpecker. It looks like it's just red, so red-billed oxpecker. What a treat. Hawk eagles just look like they're cooling down. They don't look like they're ready to drink just yet. I hope we get treated to them drinking before they're chased off. Male eland on the left, female eland on the right. Nervous of these two birds. I'm expecting them to just fly off all of a sudden. So the male eland has just moved off and he's been replaced by a female eland on the left. She's an old cow, well, the largest antelope species in Africa. Should probably be weighing in around 300 kilos. That's a bull there in the background. And then these hawk eagles just being quite cautious. You can see them looking up into the sky together. There's obviously other birds of prey flying around in the sky, and they're just keeping an eye on them. They can be they're open and they're vulnerable on the floor. Birds are best in the sky. And although there's two of them and they're fairly large eagles, a bull eland with that classic tuft of fur on the forehead. This is a great bull eland. Looks like these hawk eagles are having a bath. They're soaking their chest feathers, cooling down. Cooksters, you've noticed something about the eland's twists in the horn that is quite stunning. Gosh, you got an interesting name. Cooksters Littlefield. Such a stunning twist, you're right. They belong to the spiral-horned antelope group, so the same group of animals that bushbuck, nyala, and kudu belong to. And it almost looked like the horn was soft to the point and someone's just taken it and turned it. Gosh, these are two beautiful bull eland specimens. Only the bulls have that tuft of orange fur on their forehead. And quite a pronounced dewlap, which is that flap of skin on their neck. They use that flap of skin to accentuate their size when they're standing side on to one another. The bigger the bull, the more pronounced the dewlap. All I can see at the moment are bull eland. So this is a bachelor herd of eland for the most part. Let's see. That's a female coming in on the right. Got obviously a male here on the left. Yep. Something making them nervous. Those hawk eagles didn't stay for long and they didn't drink, which was interesting. They just sat and they got their feathers full of water. I am assuming, this is just my professional guess is that they're incubating some eggs somewhere, and the wet, cool feathers allow them to reduce the temperature of the egg, keeping it at the optimal temperature for incubation to take place. Very similar to other eagles, they will lay more than one egg, usually two. But only one of the chicks will survive into adulthood. The stronger of the two chicks or three chicks will kill the younger ones, usually by kicking them out of the nest or pecking them to death. And the parents then just bring up one, the strongest one. Anna Marie, you've just said something that I was thinking straight up as well, that old Donio just never ever fails to impress and never disappoints. You're 100%. It's really just one of those places at the moment where just endless streams and processions of animals seem to be coming out of the wilderness. It's a big, big wilderness, over 100,000 hectare, which is about 250,000 acres, large by any stretch of the imagination. And what I didn't realize is there where that, in the center of the picture, there's that eland. Just above them is Mount Kilimanjaro in the distance. We can't see it today. There's too much haze in the air and there's too much cloud. And so it is invisible to us now, but let me reassure you that the last time I was on the camera here, which was on Saturday, we had such a great view of that mountain. And so, Anna Marie, I agree with you fully that this just seems to be one of those places where there really is some magic up there. There's an oryx on the right-hand side coming into frame. A couple of them. Those are the black and white antelope. The long, straight horns, and we've got some zebra as well. So, true to form. Similar to those wildebeest that we were having a look at when we opened the show, eland are also grazers. So are oryx, and so are zebra. So they all eat grass. In fact, oryx was well, they tried to domesticate oryx actually as a replacement for cattle, which are obviously susceptible to many African diseases, animal-borne diseases, whereas the eland, being naturalized, have a resilience and a what do you call it? I can't remember the word now. But they don't get as sick as cows do, so you don't need to have the same amount of medicine. But it's never really been successful for a variety of reasons. I mean, can you do it? Yes. Has it been done? Yes. In some cases, was it successful? Yes. But it hasn't been rolled out into large scale agriculture just yet, for any number of reasons. But most of it seems to include the fact that they're quite aggressive. These bulls, they don't like each other. And when you put them into close confines with one another, they tend to fight and hurt each other.
On Woodbury Lodge's episode of Destination Safari.
I'm so used to views, I forget to mention it sometimes. Underfloor heating in the bathrooms, air conditioning, all those luxury items.
Dinner is a full three-course meal, starter, main and dessert.
Early morning drive, and on that drive you might see some slightly different things, some rare things.
Destination Safari, bringing luxury safari travel to the world.
Sib, life is hard. Oh, woe. Woe is the itchy elephant. The elephant that itched. I think I shall write a children's book about it. And on each page, the little elephant will find a new way to scratch. Oh, he's given up. Given up the ghost. Yes, that's right. Got it. An African green pigeon feeding its baby. How cool is that? That's why I wanted to risk this signal patch to feed this baby. No, it doesn't look comfortable at all.
His back leg is not in a good space. Aaron, I'm not sure. The lesions, looks like it might be abscesses. I don't think the beating that this guy's had is the first one, but that back right leg is dripping. Unless he's urinated on it, it looks like it's an open wound there. He's really not putting any weight on it.
Oh, dear, life's tough. Oh, Sib, life is hard. Oh, woe. Woe is the itchy elephant. The elephant that itched. I think I shall write a children's book about it. And on each page, the little elephant will find a new way to scratch. Oh, he's given up. Given up the ghost. Yes, that's right. Got it. An African green pigeon feeding its baby. How cool is that? That's why I wanted to risk this signal patch to feed this baby. No, it doesn't look comfortable at all.
His back leg is not in a good space. Aaron, I'm not sure. The lesions, looks like it might be abscesses. I don't think the beating that this guy's had is the first one, but that back right leg is dripping. Unless he's urinated on it, it looks like it's an open wound there. He's really not putting any weight on it.
Oh, dear, life's tough. Oh, Sib, life is hard. Oh, woe. Woe is the itchy elephant. The elephant that itched. I think I shall write a children's book about it. And on each page, the little elephant will find a new way to scratch. Oh, he's given up. Given up the ghost. Yes, that's right. Got it. Oh, dear, life's tough. Oh, Sib, life is hard. Oh, woe. Woe is the itchy elephant. The elephant that itched. I think I shall write a children's book about it. And on each page, the little elephant will find a new way to scratch. Oh, he's given up. Given up the ghost. Yes, that's right. Got over.
See any. I think what we're going to do, I'm going to hand you back to Brent, take over.
But you seldom actually see these community nest white spiders out and about as much as this. Look at the way they kind of all start emerging from these little holes. It's quite creepy actually. And you guys are going to be getting some intense close-up views. And well done to Jean-Andre, he's doing an incredible job showing you this action because he's probably holding his breath to keep his body dead still. Look, here they go again, wrestling.
Welcome back everybody to the Live at the Waterhole show. And you're still with Steph and Tabur. I'm still your naturalist for the next couple of hours. Please excuse us for that short technical breakup. We are obviously coming to you live and interactive from some of the most remote places on the planet. And every now and again a gremlin crops up. And in this particular case, electricity stopped working. It took us a bit of time to get all our systems back up and running. But we've come back to Africam's Oldonyo Cam in Kenya, and as expected, the scene is completely different to what it was when we left just a few short minutes ago. We now have a giant bull elephant and some zebra in the picture, whereas when we left, I think there was a giraffe, an oryx, and some eland in the picture. And that to me is just sort of the magic of this particular pan. It's a remote pan in a vast wilderness, and it seems to have a great turnaround of animals. Every couple of minutes to couple of hours, there's a new mix in the throw. Those of you who are just joining us and have very gratefully hung on through the technical glitch that we had, it is an interactive show, and so you're welcome to ask me some questions and send some comments. And if you don't know how to do that, you just go and log on to the WildEarth website and register, and it'll take you through a process, and then you'll be able to ask me some questions and send in your comments about what you're feeling and experiencing and seeing. Gosh, just look at that elephant. He just towers over everything, doesn't it? I know it's a male elephant just from his size. And you can see what he's doing with his ears open there. He is flapping his ears, which is usually just a sign of him cooling himself down. You can see the folds, the ripples in his ears out to the edges. His ears are actually kept stiff by a ridge of cartilage and then blood pressure. The ridge of cartilage runs along the top of the elephant's ear and allows him to open and close his ears like that. And the blood vessels are what give it that full look. And they can actually pump all their blood in their body through their ears, radiating metabolic heat out into the environment and keeping their warm-blooded bodies at the optimal temperature. And you can see he's pretty comfortable. Have a look at that back leg. If that is an old man at a bar, I don't know what else would be. I love the way they do that. That is so cool. It's really, truly something spectacular. These cameras are next level. You must be hearing the zebra splashing about in the water and making noise. Boisterous. Teresa, you saying you could watch Elise drink all day long, and I couldn't agree with you more. Just look at that folded leg, sucking, dominating the clearest of in the pan. It's at the entrance to at the exit of the inlet pipe is where he's sitting and looking at the water. That's the cleanest. These zebra, while they're busy churning up the mud on the bottom of this pan, makes the water a little bit distasteful, I would imagine. There is the elephant. He doesn't pose any significant threat to these zebra, to be honest with you. Elephant are not just these rampaging beasts, they're actually quite tolerant and calm. And he will put up with a lot of pressure from and a lot of activity. Sorry, not really pressure, a lot of activity from these herds as they come in to drink. Each elephant does have their own tipping point though, and it changes from day to day, just like the moods of humans do. You know, he might be in a grumpy mood one day or feeling quite docile and calm the next. And it's all just about us learning how to read their body language. Right now, he has a tendency to keep his ears open when he's not flapping them. And that says to me that although his back leg is relaxed and resting and he's quite calm, that subconsciously there's something happening in the environment around him which is making him keep his ears open, which is making his head look bigger. I think it's just the proximity of these zebra. See how he's staring at them the whole time. Like, what are you animals doing in my space? Someone blowing some bubbles there, you may even have heard it. The oaks in the background, the platypus. These turtle doves, they are winging themselves in, and they live in these big flocks around these areas. They feed on grass seeds. Excuse me. I have got a frog in my throat. I'm battling off with the spring day hay fever, which is affecting so many people out here in Pittsburgh. That's where I'm sitting. 5,000 kilometers away from this camera. Just testimony to how wonderful this technology is. And where I am, the flowers are coming out in profusion. The nod thorns, which there aren't any in this picture, but are flowering so much, and the pollen is just everywhere, and it's giving me the sneeze. This little dove. Karen moved on and asked a great question. Do elephants have any symbiotic relationships with other species? Gosh, Karen, let me give that a think. So elephant are keystone species. And that means that without elephants in an environment is poorer for it. An ecosystem is poorer for it. Elephants create gaps in the forest cover, which allows sunlight to reach the floor. They open up choked bushes. They keep waterways to a degree relatively clear. I mean, that's really a hippo's nest, but suffice it to say that they can dislodge clumps of reeds and stuff in water when they move through. Their feeding habits are so diverse, and their digestive system so basic that their dung spreads all over the place. There's evidence around this elephant, plus adds magnificent compost and seed beds for numerous plants. And so an elephant forms a key part in very many food webs. So now back to your question, Taryn, about whether or not you have some sort of symbiosis. So you have mutualism, which is where one benefits and the other neither is harmed or benefits. I'm actually just going to check my terminology here. You've got commensalism, which is where both species benefit, and parasitism, where you've got one species benefiting to the detriment of another. So what mutualism do we have here? I think we've got mutualism. Let me just go and double check that I have my terminology right. Give me 1 second. All right, so I had my terminology slightly mixed up there. So mutualism is where both species in a relationship with one another benefit, and commensalism is where one benefits, but the other is neither harmed nor benefits in either way. So I think that we have a commensalistic relationship between elephant and many animals, Taryn, to answer your question. If I were to look at the definition specifically, it's a relationship where one animal benefits and the other animal neither benefits nor is harmed. And as elephant are the keystone species in these environments, one of the very few keystone species in these environments, they stand nothing to gain from helping other animals with greater quality grasses because there's more open bush or pushing trees down so that an impala can get to the more succulent leaves at the top of a tree, but they're not harmed by it. In other words, by an elephant being in a relationship with another animal, they're neither harmed nor do they benefit. And that, by definition, is commensalism. So I hope that answers your question, Taryn. See if you agree with me or not. You are welcome to disagree. Obviously, I love debates and learning from each other. But that would be my take on that. So, in summary, as elephants are keystone species and form a vital part of the food web and biological activity of other animals, they cannot be in a mutualistic relationship, and it can only be in a commensalistic relationship. Okay, great. We've got another eland coming in right in the center of the screen with some oryx, the two straight-horned antelope on the right-hand side. This bull elephant is standing just above the inlet pipe of this particular pan. It is a pump pan, and is just taking his time, making sure to get trunkfuls of really fresh water. These artificial water points are such a needed a necessity in these environments. The fragmentation of these wild wilderness places happening at the rate that it is, and it's totally understandable. People need space to live, and with the population expanding and with drought in one area and whatever you want to call it, whatever pressure people are experiencing in one area and causing this expansion over the land, these wilderness areas are getting less and less common, even though this is an enormous wilderness area. And of course, with it goes the natural springs that these animals would have had access to. People love to populate around natural springs because they don't have to dig boreholes and it's easy. And of course, that's a deterrent to these wild animals. And of course, then you have to substitute for naturally occurring springs with artificial ones. And that's what we've done here. Well, that's what mankind has done, is we haven't had anything to do with it. But I don't disagree with it at all. I think it's a necessity, as I said. And so this pan is pumped and managed, as are most of the pans that we've got cameras on. And thankful for it, because to be honest with you, I love the format of this show where you've got these live cameras placed at all these remote locations in the bush, and you've got a field guide like myself and my colleagues who are able to interpret what we're looking at for you, and in that way connect you very intimately with nature, but from wherever you are, whether you're watching this show from your office, whether you've got it on your phone, whether you have it in the television for your family to look at, or just in the background waiting for the drone of my voice to finish. It's just such a great way of connecting with nature. Just hands down one of the best things that I do in my day. Right, now that I've mentioned that we've got all these pans all over the place, why don't we go and have a look at another one? And just like that, we are 5 countries south, many thousands of kilometers, and we're at Afrikam's Cat-Eye Pan up in Olifant's West Game Reserve, which is on the borders of the world-famous Kruger National Park, one of the largest and wildest of the wilderness areas left on the planet. And what you're looking at is a terrapin, a freshwater turtle that is busy sunning himself. And we saw this guy, I'm assuming it's the same guy because he's big, and there won't be too many big terrapin like this around this particular pan. We saw him sunning himself very similar a couple of weeks ago now. Terrapins, like turtles, are tortoises that live in water. Turtles being marine and living in salt water, and terrapins being freshwater, and tortoises living on land, being terrestrial. And all of them eating a variety of different things. Terrapins are carnivorous, or insectivorous more likely, and turtles eat anything from jellyfish through to seaweed and coral, and tortoises mainly just eating vegetation. And so it's a group of animals that have evolved over millions and millions and millions of years to fill very specific niches. And although their hard shells are make them quite cumbersome and clumsy, it looks, they've definitely evolved them for a purpose. And that purpose is will be evident once you see a hyena or a lion carrying around a terrapin like this, which they quite often do. In fact, I was lucky enough to witness the recovery of a lioness that had been quite sick and looked like she had been mauled by a buffalo. We didn't quite know what had happened to her, but we found her lying next to a tree very close to death. And she lay there for a week or two before managing to struggle to the side of a pan where she got water and she could stay hydrated. And she basically fed on terrapins. She hunted each terrapin in that water in turn, crunched through their shells, which wasn't an easy thing to do. And she survived on terrapins while she recovered and picked up a little bit of weight. I don't know how she survived it. She was basically just a skeleton with skin around it. And then her pride killed a giraffe a couple of miles away. She obviously heard that and somehow managed to get to this carcass and was allowed to feed. And she made a full recovery, and rejoined the pride again after months of being on her own. I don't know, just the tenacity of life sometimes completely and totally surprises me. It can be gone in an instant, and sometimes it just hangs on past what you'd think is normally possible. I think each of us have our own stories in that regard, but nevertheless, it is a wonder. Shawnee, you've asked an interesting question. Like, how do animals not get sick drinking water like this? And I mean, like, I'm looking at the same water you are and thinking, gosh, that looks disgusting. It's pea green soup, an algae soup, basically. Who knows how much urine inside of it and dung from the animals depositing it on the sides. And if you and I had to take a cup full of that water, what would happen? Um, so yes, animals can get sick from contaminated water. So water that has been contaminated with a pollutant of sorts. but are quite tolerant to dirty water. So while they have the same sort of tolerance to toxins that we have, if a water hole was poisoned or was polluted with sewage or something like that, it would also you don't have life that can live in the, well, not common life anyway, that can live in that type of water. Um, Definitely, they can tolerate dirty water far greater than what we can. And so this is just normal water. It's just algae that's saturated the water due to the high nitrate content in it. And up to a point, it won't be poisonous. You do get a cyanobacteria, a blue-green algae that does form this time of the year in these pans, which can reach toxic levels. And so waterholes can actually become toxic and poison animals to death. But at this point, that is not happening, I don't think, in this pan. There's a lot of activity around, and we're not noticing animals not coming. This terrapin is still good. Interestingly, I want to know why he's only got mud on the one side of his body. It's perplexed me since we've come here, since I've seen him. It's common for terrapins to live in mud and drag themselves through mud to get out of pans and pools, but why has this animal only got mud on one side of his body? Looks like he's been stepped on by something. You're welcome to send me your theories about what you think happened there. Like, why has this terrapin only got mud on that side of his body? And let's see what you all have to say. You're welcome to register on the WildEarth website if you don't know how to ask me a question, or send it through and it'll run you through a process, and then you can ask the questions. Let's see if he sticks around long enough for your questions to get to me, or your comments at least to get to me. Tom, you want to know why the terrapin is holding its head so high? Tom, that's the terrapin. That's a terrapin's natural sort of pose. What it'll do is it submerges itself usually, and when it's alert like it is now, it will just stick out its eyes and its nose from the top of the water, and sometimes its mouth. And so that's natural for this terrapin when it's in its alert posture, when it's aware of its environment. And this terrapin is outside of its natural environment, so it's outside of the water, and so uncomfortable, and therefore it will be in a much more alert, um, I suppose, an alert phase, or an alert, I don't know what you want to call it, behavior, than it would be if it was hiding inside the water. But it needs to come out of the water and sun itself so that it can. He's getting cold. Basically, he needs to pick up some temperature. Have a look. Something's flying around above it. See that he's not quiet. They are very alert. In fact, you won't be able to walk up to this pan and look at this terrapin like we are. It'll just disappear into the water in a splash. And we get two different types of terrapin. We get the back and we get the marsh terrapins. I think the marsh is the larger of the two. I stand corrected, but I think the marsh is the larger of the two. And this is a fairly big terrapin when I look at its size in context to the brickwork behind it. So it's probably about the size of an American football or a small rugby ball, deflated soccer ball, um, a 2 liter ice cream with legs. Just to give some context to how big this is. Two bricks of margarine next to one another. Um, what else is he? Probably the size of size 9 running shoes. Two of them next to one another. That's about as big as this terrapin is at the moment. And on my runs, I'm starting to see tracks of them. They're generally nocturnal. I'm starting to see tracks of them moving from drying up water sources to more permanent water. So you don't see them doing that during the day because it's too hot and they're exposed. They move at night time between water bodies that are drying up. And I've started to see their tracks moving, which is just a sign of the times. It's very to be expected. The water drying up as the heat increases into hell month. And then these terrapins needing to group together in the last remaining permanent water sources. There's been quite a lot of activity about them actually for them to be so aware. Usually they're dead still. I've often mistaken these terrapins for being pythons and vice versa. During the rainy seasons, during the wet warm periods of the year, so from around about December through to March, end of March, here, it's not uncommon to see large pythons in bodies of water like this. They will hunt from the water, and they just need to catch one large animal, and that's that. They will eat a baby impala or nyala or bushbuck or duiker, and that'll be that. They need only that for their food. You find some really large pythons. It's always a good idea to stop in those times of the year, so from sort of December through to March, and verify that what you're indeed looking at is terrapin and not python. With the terrapin obviously being a lot more common than large pythons are. Now we're at Africam's Cat Eye Pan. It's named Cat Eye Pan because of this great view that you have at sort of a cat's eye level, sort of a leopard or a lion's eye level, very close to the ground. And it's giving us a great view of this terrapin that's come out of the water to sun itself. Look, what was that? That was a squirrel. Here we've got a tree squirrel in the background. There you go. My absolute favorite of the small mammals. One has adopted and, I don't know, brought into the world 15 of them or so. In Hoedspruit, which is where I live, a lot of the homes have thatched roofs, and thatched roofs make for a great place for squirrels to breed prolifically. And often, baby squirrels get kicked out of their nests. The squirrels come down to drink on the right-hand side, I think. Just see some activity there. But they're very skittish. Came down to drink, and then went back into the grass. It'll come now onto the dam wall, I think. And quite often they'll fall out of their nests as babies. And for some reason, I don't know, moms tend to abandon them quite regularly. Sometimes they come down from the roofs and fetch the babies, and other times they don't. And of course, when they don't, then there's a whole network of adoptive parents, foster parents in Hoedspruit, my son being one of them. And of course, has learned how to feed them and look after them and then rewild them. And of course, it just adds to the problem, obviously, but they're great to have around. There you go. Coming up around the back of the wall there, they're very fast. Great way to find leopard is to listen to the alarm calls of the squirrels. So if you're tracking fresh leopard tracks and you hear squirrels alarm calling in front of you, it's a good idea to keep your head up, because there's a good chance you'll get to see the leopard in front of you. All right, that seems like that for this pan right now. We'll wait and give it a couple of minutes and see what else comes down. Let's go back up north to Aldonia. We're still with this elephant. Gosh. And look on the right hand side. So for those birders, we've got superb starlings. A flock of superb starlings. A great bird to have around the town. Goodness me. We're all used to the greater blue-eared and the birchals, Cape glossy starlings. But those starlings with their white bellies and their chestnut breasts are these superb starlings, the starlings that we get up in East Africa. And to see them on this camera, it's the first time I've seen them on the camera, so we're very lucky to get to see a flock of superb starling. Here they come down again. No, those look like something different. Yeah, those definitely don't look like superb starlings, but something slightly different. And then we still have the same bull elephant. So for those of you who have just joined us, firstly, welcome. And secondly, we were with this elephant about 20 minutes ago. And what I've noticed over the course of the last few weeks of hosting the show is that the bull elephant come in and spend extraordinary lengths of time around this pan. And they do that because they're preferring the clean water that is slowly bubbling up through the inlet pipe, which is exactly where the elephant's trunk is now. And they slowly suck up a trunk full of water and then put it into their mouth. I don't think the flow of water is very strong. For those birders out there, you are seeing this little bird on the trunk. I'll just back into ID it. But let's have a look at this Ellie sucking up water from the inlet pipe. You can see they don't like dirty water. Tiny little trickle there. Watch how carefully he's able to pick up the water there. I'll follow that bird for a bit for those birders out there. I'm not sure what bird that is actually. I'm going to get my pied babbler maybe. Chestnut vent. It's quite distinctive. The vent is the area of feathers around its bum, or cloaca, more scientifically correct. There's a superb starling just come into shot. And of course there's trunk-like legs of the elephant, giving us such a unique but quite special view. And watch this Ellie now place his trunk straight over the I have no idea what bird that is. My East African birds are shocking. I actually have a bird book downstairs. In East African birds, it's unacceptable that I'm not able to tell you what this bird is, and so I'll fetch it in a little bit. But it gives us a great view of this elephant sort of placing his trunk straight over that inlet pipe. using muscular contractions in his breath to suck up just a mouthful of water at a time, putting it in their mouth. And it's why the elephants tend to spend a long time here. They're not getting a lot of water from this inlet pipe, but it is tastier and cooler than the water inside the pan itself, and so warrants the additional time spent hanging around. And we see them here for hours at a time. I just find this such a unique view of this elephant. We have so many great views, like majestic views of these elephants in full view, but this is just at eye level. If you and I had to be lying on our bellies next to this pan, that's basically what we'd be able to see. It's just this towering hulk of an elephant. There's a rock agama that just came and picked off an insect. Very lucky. And you've got the male and the female in the same shot. So just off of center, you've got a male agama, blue and purple. I apologize to the cameraman. At the moment, you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I'm jumping around all over the place. So excuse me. Very confusing to try and listen to me this morning, but there's so much going on at this pan. It's actually quite difficult to see what we're looking at. So we were talking about how majestic these elephants are and how the view that we have of these elephants is usually the one that we have now, but how we were zoomed in on its trunk and its legs. And then all of a sudden, a female agama came rushing into the shot and plucked an insect off of a rock. And then I noticed that the purple and blue red-headed male of the species was in the foreground. By that stage, we were already past those. I apologize for the rather erratic commentary. See this elephant stained by the mud and the vegetable juices from the plants that he's been feeding on. Color of ivory is a sort of off-white, creamy color. There you go. In the center of the picture is that a male agama. It's just that chestnut color that you can see just basically sticking out of the sand. There you go. There he comes into focus. Look at how gloriously colored he is. Gosh. He caught something there. And look at that. This camera is off the scale. That's a male agama. And he's got his breeding colors out in full view there. He's come out into the sun to show off his colors. Bright orange head, blue and purple body, sort of pink flush on his neck. Quite aggressive, arrogant lizards. East Africa. With the female being a very drab camouflaged color. Definitely not this male. He is loving, looking like an absolute peacock. And it's a way to show off to rival males how virile you are when you're at your brightest and at your most aggressive, and it's a way to show off to the females that, hey, look, I'm the top of my hierarchy. I'm the man. Your babies are going to have the best chance of surviving if they've got my genes in them. So, consider me. Look at him. Fantastic, these cameras are. Interestingly, lizards like this have a third eye. It's a vestigial eye, in other words, it's not fully formed, and it sits in the center of their forehead, underneath, just underneath the skin. It's called a pineal eye, and its job is to determine um, day length and intensity of sunlight. And it helps this lizard to manage its calendar, for lack of a better word, and determine when the best time of the day is to come out, and when it's to sun themselves, and it's when to lay eggs, and it's when to mate. And that pineal eye is a collection of optic nerves that are then at the top of the head. Quite an interesting feature if you think about it. I don't normally think of lizards having three eyes. It's normally the realm of some insect of some sort. It's such a great view. Taking a bit of a chance standing where he's standing in the open. And of course, if you were watching a little bit earlier, you would have seen the two African hawk eagles that came in for a soak. They would definitely snatch up this guy. So he's got to keep his eyes open and peeled, not only for rival males and females that he wants to impress and dominate, but also for would-be predators that want to snatch him up and gobble him up. And he'd then need to skedaddle back to the safety of his rocks. They live on rocks. You'll see how truly incredible this camera work is when we have a look at that elephant trunk there in the background, and how amazingly well zoomed in we were. Really cool. Tom, you said that the Agama put on his blue suit and painted his head yellow. Quite stylish. I must agree with you, Tom. Classic. For you birders out there, these are the green spot doves that we're looking at now, or the emerald spotted wood dove. And it gets its name from an iridescent double patch of feathers or spots on the lower end of its wing. And it's got one of the most hauntingly sad calls, but such nostalgia for me. The call is, and you hear it in the heat of the day when the bush is just singing with temperature. And it's just so iconic of African wildernesses in these woodland thickets. Look at that Angama with the grey rock and the grey sand and the grey elephant and grey water, the grey bushes in the background, and he comes out dressed in his orange head and his purple and blue suit. I must agree with you, Tom, it is pretty stylish. And what did he catch there? No, there he goes, and there, head up and down. That head bobbing is him having seen a rival, male or a female, and he's just making his presence known. There he goes, flattens himself out there again. And he's going, look at me. They do fight with one another viciously. And look at the purple on his arm, blue legs. He'll actually get a little bit brighter as the season progresses. Thank you, whoever's operating this camera. I just want to say thank you for this. You've done a great, great job. Slowly, there you go. Great job of getting it in focus. Goodness me, just look at that. Of course, because he's so zoomed in. As soon as he moves, there he is off on the right. Just moved a few steps. Let's see what he's going to go and do. Slowly moving across. He's now disappeared there somewhere. Oh, there he goes. Zooming across. He's just gone left. Out of frame. Look at this giant elephant still just standing here soaking up a mouthful of water, or not even a cup full of water at a time. Four cups to a litre, 200 litres a day. So you're looking at many, many hundreds of trunkfuls from this tiny little trickle before this elephant's daily water needs are satiated and of course all fulfilled, and it'll take a long time to do. Gosh, it's already the top of the hour at 11 o'clock. It's amazing. For those of you who joined us, I'm Stefan Tabur. I'm the naturalist for today. We are live and interactive, and you can ask us questions by registering on the WildEarth website. And we are coming to you from the Africam Aldonia Cam up in Kenya. We're right on the Tanzanian border, facing Mount Kilimanjaro on the borders of Amboseli, and we are looking at a male agama, which is a lizard that's just scrambled up that pile of sand on the sort of center right of the screen, far right center, and of course a giant bull African elephant. And I know he's a bull because of his size and the shape of his skull and the presence of got a healthy protuberance in his belly. And these bull elephant, they hang around on their own. They're solitary for the most part. We're also looking at a relative number of turtle doves. That's the bird that just walked into the water on the left-hand side. There was a flock of superb starling here a little bit earlier. There's been some emerald spot doves and a couple of other birds that I haven't been able to identify. Embarrassingly so. That agama is still on the sand pile on the right of the screen. He's busy displaying for anyone who will look, including ourselves today, thankfully. And even though he's glorious in his colored suit, he isn't as magnificent as what this elephant is. Old elephant bull, you can see from the sunken temples and big skull, tatty ears, and just general giant size. But he's in his 40s probably. In this area, they don't last much longer. They get to 50, of course, and some to their mid-50s. But it's rare to find an elephant in this area that is older than that. They can get to 60s in areas where vegetation is soft. I say that quite specifically because the longevity of an elephant is determined by the hardness and coarseness of the food that they eat. The harder and more coarse the food, the faster they wear down their molars. And when their last and sixth set of molars is finished, an elephant will basically starve to death. And so it all depends on when their sixth set comes in. That then is the tick-tock countdown clock. Right, let's give this elephant some time to do what he's doing and for the scene around Aldonia to change. And why don't we go south and go and have a look at what's happening around Tau. So we've come a couple of kilometers south, a couple of thousand of kilometers south to Tau Lodge, African Tau Cam, or Tau Lodge Cam. And immediately what struck here is how many different species of animal we can see. So we've got the kudu, greater kudu in the background. Have a look at how corkscrewy and magnificent his horns are. Then not to be outshone are the waterbuck bulls that you can see on the right. They're the ones with the large thick-set antelope with the lyre-shaped horns. And then you've got a big ram impala, which is still quite young, but has a significantly impressive pair of horns off on the left. They are left center, that's an impala. Then the wildebeest, which are the large group of animals sort of center left above the impala. We had a springbuck walking out of shot on the left hand side, and then we've got some zebra, which is just made their way in. So let's count those species. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 species of mammal. And just look at these kudu bulls that are walking here now. Absolutely magnificent. Easily as impressive as these waterbuck. Gosh, look at them. Full-grown bull kudu. You're looking at them being around 5 years old at this stage. No good much older than sort of 7 to 9. And these guys with their 2.5, 3 full turns are about as big as what they're going to get. Similarly, these waterbuck bulls that are lying down here with the 2 females without horns, they're also bull waterbuck in their prime. And then we've got a breeding herd of wildebeest made up mainly of females and youngsters. Goodness, what a show. While quite magnificent, there's so many, or spectacular, that there's so many different species of animal around this waterhole at the same point. It's not unexpected. This time of the year, there's not that much food available, and every animal that you're seeing in the shot at the moment are grass eaters, and as you can see, there's not much grass around. And so they will be conserving what energy they can while staying hydrated, waiting for the first rains to come. You will find that zebra will walk pretty far distances, 20 kilometers or so, to feeding areas that still have grass and then come and drink. But often you just find these waterbuck and wildebeest just hanging around. That female waterbuck, she's taking a chance here. They are big crocodiles that live inside this pan. Be able to snack on her easily. You can see that whirlwind that just came through. Wind is blowing. Let's see what the temperature is in Madikwe. For 1 sec. We're sort of in the mid-70s, mid-20s right now, with a wind that's 10 kilometers per hour, so definitely just a breeze still. At about 16, it starts to get a bit blowy, and then 30 is a proper wind blowing, and then it will blow up to 50 kilometers an hour. Some Egyptian geese just came into shot on the right-hand side. That's the pair of sort of goose-looking birds you see. Madikwe is one of the large game reserves in South Africa, about the 4th or the 5th largest game reserve that we find in South Africa, and uniquely sort of spans or straddles the desert biome from the bushveld biome, savanna biome, and of course has animals from both represented. So it's actually not that common to find springbuck, which is that antelope top left, with a dark stripe through it with a white belly, and impala in the same place. You do find it, obviously. Tosha does have a similar population, but you'd be hard pressed to find impala and springbuck in the same place, as an example of what I'm talking about. And then, of course, the vegetation is in some places like the Kalahari, which is the desert, and in other places like the bushveld, which is a very big, or the savanna, which is a very big complex of plants and associated ecosystems. The bird off on the left-hand side, low, is a black-winged stilt, and then right in the left-hand corner is a blacksmith lapwing. For those of you keeping bird records, very common birds that we see around this particular pan. Those kudu have now finished drinking, and you can see them. Oh, they have to be one of my favorites. Bachelor herd of kudu. That corkscrew horn, as magnificent as what it looks, can actually hinder males when they fight with one another. And males with the same size horns, you sometimes find them locked together, like keying two corkscrews into one another, and they're pulling against one another, and of course it's locked in, and they will die often like that, locked together, and you'll find their carcasses, horns intact. So some guinea fowl, also view on the left hand side. Top of the screen behind the springbuck. There's some impala females coming down into the water to drink. Similar to the wildebeest, also pregnant, and the waterbuck actually. All just waiting for the rains to drop their babies. Tom, you say that it's quite interesting that they congregate together, and yes, it is quite interesting that they're doing that. Not unexpected, Tom. At this time of the year, their comfort zones tend to decrease significantly when it's dry and when these animals sort of congregate around the water holes during the driest portion of the year. And then they'll start to disperse again as soon as the first rains flush out the grass, and these animals then have water, formed in puddles all over the place. You won't find this amount of animals around this pan as frequently as we're seeing them now, and we'll see all the way through September into October. And so get yourself ready for an increase in numbers. Gosh, that waterbuck is massive. Look how wide his horns are. A beautiful waterbuck. Horn's not quite as long as the one on the left. And I suppose that the one on the left, it's his harem of females, because they're closer to him, but that's just my assumption. And it's these herds of animals around these water points that actually cause the lion and leopard to set up camp around these permanent water sources. I'm assuming, and this is just more of a wish than anything else, that we get to see lions at some point having shacked up here and watch them hunt. And they will hunt through the day, even though it's blisteringly hot. Being opportunistic, they will hunt these animals as often as they can. That's such a great shot, yeah. Waterbuck, guinea fowl at the back on the right, impala, springbuck on the left. Young impala ram coming down to drink. Wildebeest, zebra, Egyptian geese. Calmly just chewing the cud. Had to defer. You watched him shake his head at that male, and that was a sign of submission. That was one waterbuck just deferring to the dominance of the other one, and this guy here is more dominant than what that guy was, and so didn't want to pick a fight with the old guy. He just needed to show that he was just walking past. These two, the one at the back is slightly younger, smaller. I would have sorted out their hierarchy, I think, a little bit earlier out of shot. They get their name waterbuck because they're often associated with water bodies and will readily jump into the water to escape a predator. And they've adapted some quite unique characteristics in that their sebaceous glands on their skin, they have a lot more than what the wildebeest, for instance, would have behind them, that secrete an oil onto their fur, which acts as a water repellent and will push water away from the skin onto the fur. And they're very similar to how a leather jacket with tassels was designed to shed water from the leather jacket quicker and easier, faster. Their long fur drags water away from the skin and off the body. And so one might wonder why they've got such a furry jacket, but it's literally to help them dry off quicker. These two waterbuck having a bit of a moment with each other. You'll notice the heavy ridges on their horns, and that's so that they can push against the horns without the horns sliding past one another and causing damage. They are aggressive, and they are super strong, and they often fight to the death. These are two relative youngsters, and so this is just wrestling. But notice the horn tips when they bend down to one another. They can bring their horns into play very quickly. They'll kick forward using those massively developed hindquarters and drive the point into the flanks, chest area of an opponent. In this particular case, wasn't necessary. Mary, you've made a comment to say that there's not much water here, and that's firstly I'd just like to say welcome to the show, Mary. I'm assuming that you're a fairly new viewer, because Tau's got one of the biggest dams in the area actually, and although drying up very quickly because of the increased temperatures at the moment and the lack of rain, it still is a fairly large body of water when we compare it to other locations we've got cameras at. And so thank you for joining the show, Mary. And isn't that just a wonderful hello that we got from this common waterbuck? It's one of the most redeeming features for me are the heart. It looks like they've got a heart on their nose, like a stamp, like a postmaster's stamp. Waterbucks for me have sort of a heart on their nose. If you just look at that, you can see, can you imagine if you were to butt into a piece of paper that he'd leave a heart-shaped wet mark there. And then another thing is that white eyebrow stripe. That eyebrow stripe is naturally occurring sunglasses. Those white stripes that you see just above the eyes, I just mentioned that they are sunglasses, and that's because the sun's rays are reflected off of those white areas. And so it actually shades the eye significantly. And for those of you who have ever seen a American football match, you'll notice that they sometimes put black paint underneath their eyes, and that's to absorb light from the spotlight, so it also reduces glare. So in equal portions, it's always an effect to reduce light, an abundance of light around the eyes, and reflect it away. In some cases, like with your predators, it actually is used to reflect more light into the eye that increases nocturnal vision. But when we see lions again, have a look at the lion and leopard that both have white eyebrows as well. But in the waterbuck's case, it's not for additional light into the eye, it's to reduce glare by reflecting light away. Here's a grey heron in the background, so for those who are birders, this guy must watch out. There's some, he's a bit big to be eaten by a crocodile, frankly. The crocodiles I've seen around here will be able to go at him, but I think they're better suited to eating impala, frankly. I don't think they'd be much of a danger to a full-grown bull waterbuck, but you never know. Grey heron is such a pretty bird. Quite often associated to water, and you can see the crest of hair of feathers that they can erect on their head. You don't often see that. You don't often see them displaying at each other, at least anyway. You got a moorhen, center screen bottom. So we've got a pair of blacksmith lapwing. So if you go to the waterbuck's bottom and go left, that black and white bird that you see there is a blacksmith lapwing. Top left on the stump is a grey heron. Bottom center is a moorhen. And that waterbuck just chased that heron off. What are you doing? Why did you do that? My partner and I were walking yesterday morning early, and we passed a waterbuck. I think it was yesterday morning. Anyway, and we both have a lot of experience dealing with wild animals in the bush, and both of us are nervous of waterbuck. They are very confident and give an air of being unpredictable, particularly the bull. And so we both walked a big circle around this waterbuck. They're definitely not your timid antelope, that's for sure. Gosh, what a beautiful view of this grey heron. Notice how sharp its beak is. used for spearing fish. And they come for some lunch. Here we have two moorhens. They're the black birds in the water, and a grey heron, which is I hope to come down and fish. Let's see what it does. And then we've got some black-with lapwing and a waterbuck. Nicely reflected in the water at the top and the bottom of the screen. Such a great view. Now, Tau isn't the only camera we have. We've got a few others around the place. Hold on, one more bird. We've got a 3-banded plover on the left-hand side of the heron. Left in the mud, just in a footprint, you'll see it sticking out there. So for those of you who are keen birders, we're getting such a great view of this heron and all its feathers in full glory now. Just drying out and sunning in the sun. Wings open. That would be the equivalent of you sitting with your legs sort of splayed open. If you had to put your feet, the bottom of your feet together and relax your knees wide open, that would be the similar thing that this bird is doing. Just soaking up the sun into parts of its body that wouldn't normally get any sun, and it's in an effort just to warm up and dry out. Such a great view. Sun tanning. Almost like those reflective, yeah, it's like those, you get those, I don't know, it's obviously not only Florida, but I mean, I'm ignorant and dumb in my little African country, and so the only pictures I see are of American ladies in Florida looking like pieces of tanned leather with their solar shields reflecting the sun into their faces. Could also be that. No offense. Obviously intended. Such a great bird. All right, so we have got other cameras around Africa, and why don't we go and have a look at one of them right now? We're still in Madikwe. We are just a couple of kilometers away from where we were at Tau Lodge. So up on the northern border of South Africa, bordering Botswana, is Madikwe Game Reserve. And now we're at Jamala, which is one of the camps that's inside Madikwe. And what we're looking at is a warthog. There's on the left-hand side, we've got 2 warthog, and center some ram impala, the bachelor herd. They won't really be welcome around the females. The female herd with the big ram will be here somewhere, but these guys will be sort of on the outskirts and kept there by the bull or by the ram. Oh, goody, we got elephant. There's the female with the big ram impala. He won't tolerate the ones that we saw just now. He'll keep them far away from his females. And then this elephant herd that we're looking at now are all bull elephant, I think. Now wait, I won't say that definitively, so let me retract my rather hasty comment there. Let's see. I think they're bulls, but look at a zebra rolling. Look at the zebra dust bathing. There you go. That's so cool. The female elephant is going out of shot, I think. Alright, let's go and have a look at Old Danya. shocking difference. Wide angle on some elephant with an angle grinder in the background. Excuse that. Jamala burnt down a couple of months ago, and they are rebuilding it with all haste. And so we didn't want to disturb you with too much angle grinding. And here we have got some oryx. And this is now in Kenya, and obviously a completely different scene to what we saw there a little bit earlier, where we had just the elephant and an agama type of lizard. I'm assuming from the behavior of these oryx that that elephant is actually still there. They're cautiously coming up to drink. Honestly, I love them. Oryx are some of my favorite. Antelope out there. There you go, there's that elephant. He's still sticking around. That is just so cool. Typically, you'd expect oryx to be in sort of arid to semi-arid environments, but you do find this East African oryx in these bushveld environments. Gosh, where is it? See if they come back. Oryx don't really need to drink water. They do when it's available. Obviously, it just makes sense, but they don't really need to drink water and can go for some significant time without drinking anything. They can extract a large amount of water from the food that they eat. They're just adapted that way. Their bodies produce a very concentrated urine, and so they can sort of take out as much water as they can. And this bull elephant, he's just been sucking up, probably for more than an hour now, he's been sucking up water from the inlet pipe of this little pan between his feet, and probably no more than a cup at a time, trying to slake his thirst. And in the meantime, sharing the water with any number of different animals that have come through. Right now, you've got this herd of zebra, oryx that we came to, but there have been giraffe this morning here and eland as well. Right, let's go and have a look at cat's eye pan. Another elephant. Epic. See, these guys, they don't stick around for long. They just come and drink and then move on. And we just caught him, another bull elephant. He's finished drinking now. And we'll move off into the bushveld. Carrying on feeding. This time of the year, there's not a lot of food around, and so elephant will feed upwards of 20 hours a day at this point. They're big animals, and so need a lot of food. You're looking at 200 kilograms of food or so for a big elephant like this. And you can just see that they sort of cease their wanderings, covering enormous distances. They really are truly nomadic. They will have what's called a home range. You won't find an elephant walking, even if they could, you wouldn't find an elephant walking from the Kruger National Park to Kenya. In theory they could, there's no reason why they shouldn't. But elephants do have a memory for places and will get to know the greater area that they're in. It's called a home range. They don't defend it. with scent marks or anything like that. But they will wander in their home range, cover a couple of thousand square kilometers. And they'll know where the best places are to go in drought and where the best places are to go in flood, and favorite trees that come into fruit and sanctuaries. And who knows where this elephant's going to be later on today or tomorrow. It's hot now. Let's see what the temperature is right now while Right, so it's about 35 now, 90 degrees centigrade. No, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. But that elephant has now wandered off. And so why don't we go and see if the noise around Jamala has finished? As you can see, absolutely no harm done to the animals around there. And we're back now. I don't have, I can't hear what's happening, so I'm just assuming that there's no noise from the angle grinder, but I'm sure you can understand that. There's some noise associated to a building site while they're trying to haul a lodge out of the wilderness and give us a view of these elephant. This one in the middle looks like he's going to have a mud bath. They kick at the sand on the banks to churn up the mud. Let's see, he's probably end up shooting mud over his shoulders or behind his ears, on his belly. Ah, no bull elephant on the left hand side. 100% certain of that. I'm assuming that these other ones are bulls as well. Let's see what he's doing here. You can see that he's wet already between his legs. He's cooling his underbelly down. Let's see what he's going to do. Is he making some mud for a bath, or is he waiting for some cleaner water? Looks like he's making some mud. Careful they are with their feet. Can actually be very precise for such massive animals. Not a very big bull elephant is. I'll probably guess at his age being in his sort of late 20s, maybe early 30s, somewhere around there. I'm not an expert, but that's what I would guess. And I'm making that assumption based on the fact that his skull, while quite big, isn't massive. And his ears are in relatively good condition. And his tusks are quite small and worn down. Not an absolute, of course. The much better way of doing it is to go and have a look at which set of molars he's carrying. They get 6 sets, and they come in different phases of their lives. But I think he's still a youngster. relatively speaking. And that impala off on the left-hand side, two male impala, you can see that is evidenced by the horns that they carry. The females of the species don't have horns. Gosh, that's a pretty big guy. Yeah, the warthog are coming into the bottom of the screen. Some youngsters born last year. Oh, there you go. Mom on the left. Very successful mommy. She's managed to bring 3 babies all the way through from last December to this year. She will be carrying the next litter, and she will very soon be going into her underground den and delivering the next litter of piglets, which we should see in the first week or two of December. So they'll keep the piglets underground for 3 or 4 weeks and bring them out for everyone to see. And at that stage, these youngsters will probably move off. But she's a great mommy warthog to have made sure that 3 of her piglets managed to survive into adulthood. Well, sub-adulthood. These warthogs' legs aren't broken. They've gone down on their knees to give themselves, just to rest and to give themselves a bit more leverage to eat whatever they're eating there. They're picking at the grass stems. So there you can see it's not broken, don't worry. That is a very common thing for a warthog to do. And this is a young male. I can see that because he's got 2 sets of warts on his face. If it was a female, they wouldn't have that set of warts sort of midway down between his nose and his eye. This is a young male. What a great shot. Goodness me. These cameras are just something else, eh? Something got this warthog's attention there. It's licking up something off the ground, some mineral. So that little warthog that you saw there finished whatever it was capturing its attention and has now made his way back to his siblings and mom. She's got a fresh coat of mud on her, so somewhere between now and the last couple of minutes she's gone into the water and she must be feeling super with her wet mud covering, slowly drying in the breeze and the sun. Must be wonderful. That baby just walking around on his knees. Commenting on the fact that this female is very successful. It's not common that you see warthog this many piglets survive at this age. The attrition rate is relatively high, namely through lion and leopard, wild dog, every so often cheetah and hyena. Some eagles as well. I've watched an eagle snatch up a warthog. Pythons definitely around waterholes like this. I wonder what's happening. This elephant is getting frisky and chasing all these animals around. Take a scan and see what's happening around this pan. Relatively large body of water. Such a great thing that we've got this camera able to zoom in and zoom out, and pan left and right. Not just a static. We've come very far with these webcams. It's just incredible. We can see whether this is a female elephant or a male. I was undecided, frankly. We were looking at a male elephant. And now I'm trying to decide whether this is a female elephant and a calf, and I'm 80% sure that she's a female and this is her calf. In fact, both might actually be her calves. This is a female. So here we've got a female with her calf, and that older male that we're looking at might actually be her sort of son. I just stretched her trunk down. This little one has just managed to grab a quick scoop full of water from way down below herself. So gentle. So this bull elephant that we're seeing now, I think it may be her son. I stand corrected, but she's an old cow. You can see how sunken in her temples are and how big her body is. That head up. It's a telltale sign that she's not comfortable with something. Let's just see if it's going to be this bull elephant that comes in there that's making her nervous by his proximity to her and her calf, or whether it's something else. She looks like she's calming down again. No, head still up. See what she does. Oh, there's another elephant. That's one. All right, so we've got now another elephant that's come in. They look like they're a very similar age. So now we know what bothered her. I'll reassess and say that this is probably not her youngster. There's just two young male elephants that are hanging around together and have come to join this female and her calf, with the off chance that one of them might be related to her. See what he's going to do. She may not tolerate him so close. She's older than what he is. He's a young bull elephant. She may just be coming into estrus, and he's just the first of many elephant which will come and present his suit to her. Definitely not big enough to vie for her attention when she does finally ovulate. standing there. You see his confidence is not quite there. You just see it in his body language. Funny thing is these Ellie. Such a great, peaceful shot there. You can see how he's folded his leg, trying to look all nonchalant. Can you imagine what is going on inside that elephant's head right now? Let's see, she's going to back out now into him and create some space. There's not much space for maneuvering. There she goes. He moves off. And we'll probably allow her to relax a little bit. Another disturbance. You can see how she lifted her head there and she's bending down and picking up some water. Great looking female man calf. Can't help but let the piece sort of soak into your bones, right? It's just amazing. But we do have other cameras around Africa, and so why don't we go and have a look at Old Donia? And this old guy's still here. Not changing as often as the picture around Jamal is changing, that's for sure. So this is Africam's Old Donia camp on the Old Donia Conservancy in Kenya, right on the Tanzanian border. And we've got some oryx and some zebra and an elephant. And this elephant, he's been here for some time, I think probably an hour to an hour and a half now, just sucking up water from the inlet pipe. And there's been a never-ending stream of other animals that have come and shared the water with him. Such great looking zebra there. Healthy, always healthy. I'd hate to know the day that we start seeing a drought so bad that even the zebra gets skinny. By that stage, everything else will be near dead. A man after my own heart. Stefan, you said, what a magnificent view. As I see, your name is spelled slightly different than mine. Mine's spelled with a F-A-N and yours with a P-H-E-N. Yeah, it is such a magnificent view. I mean, just the amount of dazzle that these zebras just give the eye is just incredible. Quite difficult to pick out individuals or even to gauge sort of how many there are. Even counting them, and they tend to be around 20 plus minus in these herds that come down here. That seems to be the average herd size. That elephant just had enough. That is him shaking his head, clapping his ears, and obviously ignored completely. There's a handy trick to sex zebra looking from their rears. So like this, a pencil stripe is usually, so the vertical stripe underneath their tail. The pencil stripe is usually typical of a male zebra, whereas a broader stripe, sort of 2-3 fingers wide, is typical of a female. Gosh, they're all busy, aren't they? For those of you keeping score of these types of things, that whitish bird that we saw a little bit earlier on at Albania was a white-browed sparrow weaver. None of them now, these zebra are just kicking up such a storm, and nothing else can come down it. Older female zebra will often bully younger ones in a harem. I mean, there's enough water going on. I don't know what the hell is going on. Something reversing in, kicking and biting and charging around. Ears back. It's different, just sitting like a calm mountain amongst the sea. A zebra. See the next herd in the back just calmly waiting for their turn at the water. How many do you think are here? Count 14. Arnold, you said exactly what everyone was thinking. Those stripes surely make it very difficult to count. You're 100% right, Arnold. Especially when they got their heads down and where there's multiple of them standing in a line. It makes it incredibly difficult to count. In fact, one of the hypotheses for why zebra have evolved these quite bold stripes as opposed to the other wild donkeys and asses around the world, was that it created a sort of dazzling effect for predators. And that was just an assumption based on what it's doing to the human eye. Our eyes see those vertical contrasting stripes as being quite dazzling. But in fact, what we managed to find out was that those hypotheses have been slowly chipped away, and the only one that stands with any weight or certainty at the moment is the fact that these stripes are as a deterrent for flies, for biting flies, particularly the tsetse fly that you find up here in this part of Africa, which carries diseases. And that boldly contrasting stripes are... I'm going to explain what that oryx is doing there. Look. Okay, so I'll carry on with my stripes conversation. What you saw there was a male oryx busy trying to cover a female. And what they do is they sniff her to test sort of reproductive status. And then when that front leg comes up between her legs as a precursor to them mating with a female. I think it's pretty rude, him taking advantage of her while she's trying to have a drink. But obviously, she's about as ready as she's going to be, and he's just taking advantage of it. Can't help himself. What a pig. He's a beautiful male oryx, though. So to come back to these stripes, so it's been proven that this boldly striped, boldly striped patterns like this are a fly deterrent, particularly those biting flies. And one of our viewers actually had a horse. This guy just doesn't want to give up. Well, he's insistent, tenacious. One of our viewers had a striped blanket that he put on his horses, his domesticated horses, and it greatly reduced the amount of biting flies that his horses had on them. So it definitely does work. Shame this poor female. She just wants to have a drink, and she's got all these males around her. Gosh, there's so much activity going on today. It's actually incredible. We are really blessed. So why don't we shoot south to Tower Lodge and go and see what's happening there. Goodness, another herd of elephant. We are being spoiled today. So we've come now a couple of countries south. We're in South Africa, in Madikwe, at Tower Lodge. African's got a camera there, and we're busy looking. We looked at a large number of animals. We, in fact, had 6 species of mammal around this pan when we were here earlier. And what's come out of the bush in the interim is a breeding herd of elephant. And I know that it's a breeding herd because of the presence of that baby that you can see there in the middle. Excuse me. And this herd will be made up of an old female. She'll be the matriarch with a couple with her kids basically all around her, and maybe a sister to the matriarch with her kids. Strikingly, you can see that there's an elephant with a missing tail off on the right hand side. It's got a stubby tail, and that could have been injured in any number of ways. She could have had it bitten off by another elephant. It could have been broken in a fight or in some flight of some sorts and fell off. She could have had some sickness. Look at this youngster using his mom's butt to scratch his ear. Gosh, my mother would have kicked me in the head if I had used her butt to scratch my face. Not comfortable. You can see her ears up over her shoulder blades, the one on the left hand side. That's a sure sign of some agitation, as it I'm very aware of the subtle body language that elephants display, and it's a good, very healthy survival trick to have. Elephants are vicious and incredibly dangerous when they are scared or are aggravated, and particularly by the presence of human beings. You want to make sure that when you're walking close to elephant that you are doing so with the priority being that they don't know that you're there and that you're aware of anything that could change that. And me looking at an elephant like that with their ears up, she's calmed down now a little bit. The one on the right hand side, you can see how her ears are up over the height of her shoulder. That is one of the subtle signs that something, she's not happy with something. Could be the presence of another elephant. Could be that there's just too much activity going on around her. But you got to watch the old cow. There's a warthog on the right, sort of between the wildebeest. Blacksmith lapwing on the left, under the elephant's trunks. We have been super blessed today with just so much activity around these pans. Blackwing stilts, birds. You get 2 different types of elephant in Africa. You get the African elephant and then you get the forest elephant. The only well, apart from the habitat that they live in, obviously, one lives in the forests of Central Africa, and the other one lives in these open bushveld savannas, or the fact that when you look at their skulls, the forest elephant has a depression sort of in the middle of their forehead, whereas the African elephant's convex, not concave. Other than that, they look the same. The forest elephants tend to have a pale eye, a white eye, and much sort of straighter tusks. And that's an evolution to sort of make their way through the forest. It's actually just natural selection of elephants that are easier, that move through the forest easier. If you had these widely splayed tusks, like we've seen on some of the elephant, particularly at Albania, they wouldn't maneuver through the forest as easily. Very tight group of elephants. It's not uncommon for calves to be in touch with their mothers and be within touching distance for days and months at a time. They like being close to one another. Tight-knit family groups, these. Ears still up. Still very aware of some surroundings, some disturbance in the surroundings. And it could be as far as 10 kilometers away. Elephants can hear for much, much further distances than what we can. And use ultra-low frequency infrasound to carry their voices, for lack of a better word, far out into the bush. Going just out of your screen on the right-hand side there was a black-backed jackal, one of the canids that occur in Africa. You get the side-striped jackal, Cape fox, wild dog, and bat-eared fox. Those are the canids that occur here, and what you saw there was relatively common in Madekwe, the black-backed jackal. Great little predator. No danger to the elephant whatsoever or the wildebeest. And so it leaves us looking at these ellies, quite lovely. Busy drinking their fill. They won't quite have the 200 liters that a big bull elephant like we were watching at Old Donyo needs to have. But they will drink a significant amount of water every day, usually just once a day. There's elephant with their stubby tail. It will not grow back, so that will be gone for life and will not do the elephant any harm whatsoever, apart from just taking away its fly swatter for, convenience sake. There's another elephant coming into the view, marching out of the bush. Maybe what was giving these other elephants pause for concern. There's quite a lot of wildebeest actually just relaxing on this plain. Here we have a hartebeest, so it's something that we haven't seen very often. What you're having a look at is a red hartebeest. Those are those antelope that you're looking at now in the center of the screen. One of the fastest antelope that we have out here. Easily the fastest out of anything that we've seen currently. And the herd of wildebeest obviously are different to the hartebeest. You'll notice that their horns are different and their coat pattern, their colors are different. Other than that, have the similar body shape. It's a body shape built for endurance and speed. Heavy across the forequarters, well-developed hindquarters. Mouth shaped for eating grass. And there's very distinct horns. It look like a fiddle to me from the front. Great sighting. This time of the year, these wildebeest don't have very many places to go other than just staying close to water, hydrated and safe on these open plains, where they can see predators coming from a long way away, just conserving their strength. Survival tactic that we can learn quite a lot of, or from, I should say. When resources are few, concentrate on the important stuff, making sure that you only spend what energy is absolutely necessary and nothing more. You'll notice that both the male and the female of the wildebeest and the hartebeest carry horns. And they're a true horn, not an antler. So they don't shed them once a year, they don't grow them and shed them like a reindeer or a moose would, for instance. But those horns have a bony core, not a cover, with a keratin layer on the outside with the blood vessels that go into the horns. And are therefore less showy than a moose's horns are, but a lot more stronger. Here you can see that this herd of elephant seems to have been joined by that young male. Look at that. He may actually be off on the left hand side, just out of shot. Thank you for coming in. There's a black grey heron patrolling the fringes of the Waterhole. Egyptian geese. A lot of them. Some more wildebeest and warthog. And another herd of elephant. Gosh, they're all being treated today, aren't they? Look at that. Oh, and some swimming. Epic. That is what is freaking the elephant out. Look at that. Oh, yeah, that is so cool. Elephants having a mud bath. They're just having an absolute ball. What a great shot for us to come to the end of the show on. This elephant is all but submerged in the middle of the picture. That is so cool. It's hot now today. We're in the 90s already. And these elephants, you can see what they're doing. They're just having the time of their lives, just spraying themselves with mud, cooling themselves down. This one's having a proper swim on the right hand side. Look at it. Look, going completely under the water. That's so cool. Others obviously making new mud, happy with mud. Splashing around. Gosh. There's just something about elephant playing in the mud that's just so joyful, to be honest. We can watch this one come in. How quickly is this one going to submerge itself? Let's see. Kind of like using their knees. They can get out of place. Some white-faced duck coming into the picture off on the left-hand side, and some Egyptian geese going out of the picture on the right. Look at that one with his trunk out. Oh, boom. That mud must be super deep to be hiding an elephant's body like that. Just have a look at that. An entire elephant there. And there that one has just plopped itself down at the back. And now we're busy tusking out some fresh mud. The baby stuck there on the left hand side. Sorry, I don't even know where to look at the moment. Elephant swimming, elephant digging, the little baby struggling to get up out of the mud. It's slippery, of course. It's going to do it. There we go. They are surprisingly mobile, these ellies. I was watching some elephant on Saturday on top of a hill, on top of rocks. One just slipped on the left hand side, collapsed in the mud. Gosh. This family has a lot more fun than the scaredy cats on the other side of the river. Or on the other side of the dam. I should have come here and enjoyed the party. See them splashing around there on the right hand side. More elephants coming in. Let's see if these ones also swim. He's gonna go, she's gonna go under. That's the deepest part. In South Africa we say they're having a jaw. J-O-L. And jaw is a boisterous play. There you go. Submerge, head under. Gosh, the puddle of mud is deep. I don't know where to look. And the elephant he decided, no, climbing out too hard, he's just going to flop back into it. Yes, this is so cool. What a great way to end the show. Debbie, thank you for another wonderful experience at the Waterhole. I know you just passed that comment on to us, but Mother Nature definitely brought her A game, and what a pleasure, Debbie. I mean, just imparting in the last couple of minutes of the show, just while we're watching this absolute ball. I just want to say thank you to you for watching the show and for all your support. Every other viewer out there, it just means so much to us that we got eyes on the screen. And of course, thank you to all our partners and shareholders and all those behind the scenes. Gosh, this elephant is under. To everyone that makes the show possible, to all the directors and the cameramen and technicians and everyone that brings the show, I just want to pass on my gratitude. Thanks to that. We're just going to end this with a submarine elephant. Gosh, what a way. Wherever you are, stay safe, be kind, and we'll catch you guys all tomorrow, I'm sure.